couple of weeks ago. I just think the last couple of weeks' performances probably haven't been as good as what we were. But at the same time, I'm going down there and I'm hopeful just like everybody else. I think it should be a great occasion. Let's just hope that people's not coming back on the times that we went down there miserable, because I think we've got a fantastic team. I think we've got a fantastic team spirit. So who knows? I know there's little bits and pieces about Rashford as well.
Yeah.
I think that's bollocks, to be quite honest.
Me too.
Think, it's normally what people
Kidology
tend to do, yeah. I mean, I have to be honest, I wouldn't be disappointed if he missed. But at the same time, I still think we've got a fantastic chance. You know, we all know we've got some very, very good players, so it's just what happens on the day. I know it's a cliche, but you've just got to play the game rather than the occasion.
100%. We'll come to it in the second half, and don't forget that's your time to ask questions, and anybody wants any photographs and stuff done, we may fit them in at half time or fit them in at the end, whenever you want, if you've got such time. Anyway, let's go back to the start. Let's talk about the early days at Newcastle United. How did you end up at Newcastle United, Steve?
Well, I think it's not a secret. I'm from Sunderland. Fuck off.
By the way, there is swearing in this show, so if you're easily offended, you probably want to go downstairs to the birthday party.
Yeah, I mean, I must be a glutton for punishment because I was born in Sunderland, I played for Newcastle, and I now live in Middlesbrough. So,
And you've got a brother called Lee, Howey.
Yeah, and he's a twat. But yeah, I mean, there's a league called the Russell Foster League. I think it's still going. And we had a very good team on Saturday, a very good team on a Sunday. We used to have loads of scouts watching us. There was no Premier League then; it was just Division 1. I got asked to go to every one because I wasn't a centre forward, and I think early days, some of you guys who went, you'll probably know that I wasn't a centre forward. I actually think my name for the first 2 years at Newcastle was not Steve Howey. I think it was Useless Mac and Bastard. But yeah, I was an attacking midfield player, and basically I was a home bird. I wanted to stop home. I had the chance to sign for Sunderland. I had the chance to sign for Newcastle. I had the chance to sign for all of them, but as I said, I wanted to stop home. But you know, in the 6 weeks holidays, I used to go to Newcastle quite a lot, and obviously there were some really good lads there. Rob Elliott, Steve Watson, Alan Thompson, Lee Clark, Matty Appleby. We got Alan Nielsen as well. We had Lee Makel. And I just got on with the lads. I didn't mind the trek, even though it was getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get a bus into Sunderland town centre, then a train, and then the 38 to Benwood, sorry. Burnt out cars every time I was driving up there on the bus. But I just liked the vibe that I got. So it was a decision between the two, and I picked Newcastle. To be quite honest, it was probably the best decision I ever made.
Mm. Who was the manager when you first went to the club?
Believe it or not, it was Jack Charlton was the manager. That's how long ago it was. And then I actually signed when it was Willie McFall. And then obviously, as I said, our youth team was run by a bloke called Colin Subbard. So I was an apprentice, obviously, served my apprenticeship with the rest of the boys. But we didn't have a centre forward, so me and Lee Clark played up front all the time. And to be fair, we scored a lot of goals in the intermediate league and even in the reserve league. I mean, it's all changed now with the 23s and stuff like that, because in the reserve league, you could be 16, 17 playing against seasoned pros, and I thought that was a major help for players coming through and learning experience. And I was lucky enough when Jim Smith took over. We had a couple of injuries. It was Mark McGee and Quinney. And I actually made my debut at 17 coming on. I think we got beat 2-0. We'd already been relegated at Old Trafford. So making my debut at 17 at Old Trafford against players who, you know, can remember Shoot Magazine and Match Magazine and stuff like that. I used to have pictures of Man United players and all other players, to be quite honest. And then all of a sudden I'm stood next to them on the pitch. It was quite surreal. And then I had to wait a full year. I did actually get asked. Kenny Wharton was kind of doing some stuff in Canada, and he asked me if I wanted to play for a team in Winnipeg, which is in the back of Beyonds. It's basically, there's more fucking polar bears than there is people. That didn't appeal to me, and to be quite honest, again, that was a good decision, because I made my full debut, I think it was against Plymouth Argyle, first game of the season. And again, I had to wait a little bit, to get in. Ozzy Ardiles was the one, really. I mean, I kind of struggled as a centre forward up there. I mean, let's be honest, we weren't the best of teams. Under Ozzy, I think, was brilliant, but also kind of wrong in some respects because he got rid of good pros, likes of Mark McGee, likes of Roy Aitken, and he did put in a lot of young lads and the lads that I've just mentioned. And at times it was kind of boys against men. And of course, I was up front, I'm wearing the number 9, I'm from Sunderland, that doesn't kind of sit well. And of course I was shit at the time as well, so it didn't go brilliant. And obviously when Ozzy left, Kevin came in, and then everything completely changed.
The Ozzy Ardiles era was one which I guess we'll look back, maybe with rose-tinted glasses as supporters, because he gave youth a chance, didn't he? And I think, a lot is made of the class of '92 at Manchester United, but we have our own class of '92 with the likes of you, and you mentioned Nash, Lee Clark, Steve Watson. They all went on to have great careers, really.
Well, yeah, Alan Thompson, fantastic player, great career at Celtic, Bolton. Rob Elliott did really well. Matt Appleby kind of so, I suppose. Lee Maker, I think, went up to Scotland. So there was a fair few of us, to be quite honest. I mean, obviously, me, Watto, Rob Elliott, and Nash, Lee Clark. Obviously, we were the ones that kind of stayed there for a bit and managed to keep our places. Watto initially, and he was like 16-year-old, kind of burst onto the scene. And then obviously when Kevin came in, it was me and Lee Clark were kind of major features under Kevin. But that was a complete change for me, because that was me at the start of my career, having never ever played at centre half before. Went on and managed to play in a relatively successful team.
A lot of turmoil going on off the pitch as well, wasn't there? With the takeover attempts and the family silver with Gordon McKeegan. Did you really feel that as a player, as a young player at Newcastle at the time?
Not really. I mean, I think that's why when the takeover and all the stuff that was going on with Mike Ashley and the Saudis taking over and stuff, and people would ask me questions. Does it affect the players? Obviously, the players are aware of it. They know what's going on, but as far as they're concerned, and what we were concerned is our kind of main concern is actually trying to get in the team and trying to play well for Newcastle. So we've got nothing to do with that. It's not as though we kind of have any say in anything that goes on. But obviously, Sir John coming in and Freddie again, who had the masterstroke of bringing Kevin in, was that's how the club all of a sudden went from. Basically, the analogy is a snowball effect, because when Kevin came in, it was just a team that was struggling, and all of a sudden we had the feel-good factor come back for the fans because of Kevin, and then Kevin's complete way that he changed things, his enthusiasm, everything about Kevin was just a breath of fresh air to the players, to the fans, and as I said, it was a snowball effect, because it started off like a little snowflake, and all of a sudden it ended up being a big snowball, which turned into an avalanche that was just hit everybody in the country, because people were like, well, where have these come from? And we were playing this ridiculous football, and everybody's kind of second team.
I remember standing in the Milburn Paddocks back in those days, and the atmosphere just changed, didn't it, overnight? Kevin arrives, he's unveiled at the brewery, and Newcastle were in a perilous position then, weren't they?
We were struggling, and we didn't need it in the end, although we won. I think Leicester
2-1, yeah.
But results had gone our way. But that was the one. That's when Kevin really sat down with Sir John and basically sort of said, "This is not happening again. Not for these fans, not for this club." And of course, he went out, and we were, as lads in the team, you'd seen people leave, but then you'd seen people coming in, and you were thinking, "Wow, you heard of these players that were big name players. Barry Venison, John Beresford, Paul Bracewell, Sheedy, all of these players that you're just thinking, wow," and all of a sudden training was just getting better and better and better, and it was so intense training. Training was kind of weird in one way, because we never ever worked on anything. We never worked on any set players, we never worked on any shape. Kevin was all about five-a-sides, doing some crossing and finishing, some shooting. He wanted lads to enjoy training, but the five-a-side at the end was of such a high quality. When we actually brought in some players, Kevin would make sure that we had to have the standards of a certain level, and then we brought some players in that couldn't handle it, and then players would come in and very quickly would find themselves back out and sold again.
A lot of talk about Brian Kilclain coming in as well. He's often looked at as the player that Kevin Keegan's entertainers was built on. He was like the very start, the main signing, kept us up, big player, and I know there was a lot of respect in the dressing room for Brian, wasn't it? From
Huge. The lads absolutely loved him. I think he was one of the main catalysts really of how we did really well, because even when he didn't play and it got to the stage where he wasn't really playing, him in the dressing room, he was absolutely fantastic. He just changed everything, how we thought about things. Fantastic advice for me. Always kind of coming to me and sort of seeing what he was saying, which was a big help. But a personality the boys used to rip the piss out of him all the time because of his gear. His gear was horrific. But he just didn't care. He was just all for the boys. So he was possibly, whilst Kevin for me was the best signing we ever made, just like you would sort of see Eddie Howey's now, the biggest one was probably Killer, because he was just absolutely superb in the dressing room. Obviously, it went a little bit pear-shaped when we won the championship, and all the boys went off to Iron Napa, and of course it went a little bit wrong there because of
what
the
happened?
Boys. Fucking Barry Venison, man, he's a nightmare. Venice used to threaten cutting his ponytail off all the time, and Killer loved his hair. He absolutely loved it, and. I had just moved into the new house. I was actually still living in Sunderland, believe it or not, in Silksworth. And I was with my missus, and obviously at the end of the season, Paul Bracewell and Venice would keep on saying to me, listen, you've got to come on this. It's not very often you win a championship. You've got to take it all in. You've got to enjoy these moments. Don't come around very often. But obviously my main concern was getting settled in a house and keeping my missus happy. I should have fucked off because I got divorced from her anyway. But the lads had got pissed, absolutely wrecked. And Killer was one of these. He was massively into his heavy metal stuff, and he used to take his the band out and like shake his head, and his hair would be all over the place. And Killer could drink, but he passed out apparently. And when he passed out, I think Venice and I can't remember who else it was, but definitely Venice was the catalyst in there. Chopped half of his ponytail off and shaved the other half of his tash and put it in a champagne flute. So when he woke up all hungover, he's kind of opened his eyes and he's just seen hair in a glass and absolutely lost his blob. Liam O'Brien was there. Obviously he was in the Killer camp. Ned Kelly was there. He was in the Killer camp. So obviously Killer was hurt, because he was hurt that the lads had done it to him, but he was also hurt that the lads didn't stop them doing it to him.
Yeah.
And of course, Derek Zackley was with us. Faz, great lad, fantastic coach. He knocked on Faz's door. Faz opened the door and he knocked him clean out. Just hit him, just laid him out, and basically was running after Venice to try and catch him. But that was a massive divide. And when we came back, I was so happy I didn't go in the end because of all this that had gone on. Killer was different, as I said, because he felt hurt and felt let down, which was a shame because he was such a lovely man. We still see him,
yeah,
and he is still just such a wonderful person.
What was it like in that promotion season as well? Was it a 12-game unbeaten run at the start of the season? And I think went down to Sunderland, won 2-1 overhead, the over the wall by Liam O'Brien. It was a hell of a run, wasn't it, at the start of the season, which was the catalyst for that?
It was. I think I was listening. I think Burnley were going for that just the other week.
Yeah,
They scored the 95th minute or something to draw with Watford, I think, something like that. But yeah, and it worked out how it worked out was quite unreal, really, because it was Grimsby that beat us, of all teams.
Dobbin
with a absolute worldy goal. We got beat 1-0, and as it transpired, it actually worked out. We went down there and won 2-0 and clinched promotion. But yeah, we just had, I think our first game was Southend at home, and it was pissing down, and we won 3-2, and that was the first Paul Bracewell scored as well. Really, never scored ever, and it was just a feel-good factor. And as I said, that was the start really of a snowball effect, which ended up being a ridiculous kind of encounter.
culminated in that wonderful performance at home as well. When, ironically against Leicester, who we would have to win to stay up the previous season, and then the end of that season, 6-0 up at half time. It was a 7-1 win. And what was it like just being there and part of that as a player?
It was unbelievable because I think the ground was getting done as well at the time, and Leicester were flying. I think Leicester might have been second or third, and we absolutely demolished them. And that was just like a show of how good we were. I mean, I know Steve Walsh quite well, I know Jerry Taggart quite well, and one or two of the other boys, Muzzy Izzet and stuff like that. And they were like, we could not even get anywhere near us. It was just untouchable football. And just remembering the fan celebration and stuff, and the kind of the going around the pitch with a trophy. And I mean, I think Kevin kind of looked at that and thought, well, this is the start, because again, Kevin wouldn't rest. He always wanted bigger and better, and of course, ridiculously, we did.
How important was a good friend of yours and mine, Pavel Srnicek, in that promotion season?
Brilliant, great goalkeeper. I mean, there's times when, as a defender, you'll go to engage somebody, but before you've made that step, they've had a shot, and there was a couple of times when it goes past you, you don't have to turn around because you're thinking that's him, because that's in top bins. And Pav was such, he was the perfect specimen if you think about it. I mean, he was built like wonderful physique, very agile, and he would just go. He would just save these ones that you would just think, how the bloody hell is he getting that? But I mean, obviously we went to Pav's funeral, didn't we, over in Czech Republic, and it was, from seeing him and like he was, it's still heartbreaking to think he's still not here.
Yeah, he had the Pavel as a Geordie T-shirt on as well. How did that come about?
I haven't got a clue, to be quite honest.
It's Lee Clark who printed it off, I think. He's got a history with T-shirts, Clark.
Yeah, he has. Well, Nash was a wrong one anyway. I mean, Lee Clark's nickname's Nash, and he was always up to mischief, to be quite honest. And it's a very good chance to start with him. And of course, the fans took it on, and he's gone down as pretty much one of the iconic figures, really, with the Newcastle fans, which is brilliant.
He has. At the end of that season, obviously Andy Cole had come in, a bit of an unknown quantity to us. Obviously went on to become the club's record goal scorer in a season, beating Howey Gallagher's record. But his incoming meant that there was outgoings. Gavin Peacock left because he obviously had a family issue with the birth of his son and having to have treatment down in London. And David Kelly left, which I think, he scored a hat-trick on the telly. David Kelly was a hero to us, but he ended up leaving, and there was a lot of head scratching went on, but as you said, Keegan had other things in mind, other players in mind, and he was rebuilding. Yeah,
he wanted bigger and better, and I think with Gavin and Ned, it was a case of he did actually go to the players and say, listen, you've done absolutely fantastic for us, I'll try and get you the best deal that I possibly can, financially for you, obviously a deal where you want to be, but I want to just thank you. But the harsh reality is, I'm looking to build and get better players in, and obviously Coles was one of them players that came in. I played against Coley. I actually played against him in the Youth Cup when he played for Arsenal. We won 1-0 at St James's. I actually scored. I was centre forward at the time. Paul Dickoff as well was playing up front. So Paul Dickoff ends up, he's one of my best mates now, which is weird. But I remember playing against Coles when he was at Bristol City, and I can remember saying to Kevin afterwards, he's decent. He was quick. He had really good feet. But did I think he would come to Newcastle and do what he did? No. But delighted he did, because he just had this partnership with Peter that was just absolutely brilliant. And obviously we had Scoot and all that. It was an unbelievable sign, because I still scratch my head to wonder why he sold them to them, eventually, Man United. But it is what it is.
Peter Beardsley coming back. I mean, he was brilliant the first time. He was fantastic the second time. What a player, a club legend. And again, it just showed, that Kevin was really going to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I get asked who was the best player I ever played with. I mean, bearing in mind, with England kind of set up with Gascoigne and stuff, and then obviously you've got David Ginola, Les, Al, Festino, all of these players, Theo, Rob Lee. Peter was best, absolutely frightening. In the dressing room, he was quite. His tongue was quite sharp at times, but in training, he was ridiculous. in games, he was absolutely ridiculous. He's obviously got that trick, which everybody knows is coming, but he can do absolutely bugger all about. But it was weird because Kevin loved him. And even when Peter gave the ball away, because sometimes the ball would come to Pedro and he would hit it the first time, and it would be a shit pass, but it wasn't his fault. It was our fault because we weren't on the same wavelength. That's how Kevin used to see it anyway. But he was unbelievable. I mean, the goals that he scored and the kind of partnership he had with Coley was absolutely frightening.
You've talked about the characters. You've got some great stories about them, which I want you to share with the people here tonight. So, in no particular order, let's talk about Philippe Albert first. What was he like? I mean, the big Belgian.
He was rude. I am going to swear, and some of the stories are quite rude. But Philippe was basically Belgium's answer to Chubby Brown. He was pure filth. But great lad. He loved Sid the Sexist. But just a daft one was, do you remember a programme called Allo Allo? Yeah. And then there was the big tall, like, French copper. He spoke like him. And I can remember being in the lounge. Philippe had just signed, and I was with my dad and my mum, and my dad's gone, Steve, do me a favour, can you introduce me to Philippe? I went, I ain't bother. So I've gone across, I went, Philippe, this is my dad Norman, this is my mum Yvonne. And he basically pied me dad off, and he just went, Yvonne, I have heard a lot about you. My mum's like, I have heard you've had two lovers, the Army and the Navy. It's like, Phil, fucking hell, man. You basically called me out a slag. And he just starts to laugh and he goes, she fucking loves it. But he was, as I said, he loved Sid the Sexist. What all used to bring different videos on. Phil, the daft bugger, used to just sit at the back of the bus. If you watch games when we're coming out the tunnel, bearing in mind we were always on Sky, and there was like, God knows how many watching at home, the grounds was absolutely packed. We'd be in the tunnel, and Phil used to always be at the back, pretty much mostly at the back. And normally you're in the tunnel, and you're ready to go, and both sides, you've got lads going, fucking hell boys, come on, let's do this from the start, fucking from minute one, come on. And then we'd all be walking out, and he'd go, boys, and we'd turn round, and without fear, he'd just go, T2. And fucking hell, Phil, there's millions of people watching this at home, and you're going, T2. Fucking wrong with it. But I mean, we used to go out, we had a great camaraderie that lasted all my time through at Newcastle, pretty much. And we always used to go out on a Monday or a Tuesday, we used to go to Quayside. We used to go to Uno's first, and then like some Jimmy's and Martha's and Julie's and stuff like that. Kevin was all for that. We always used to come in on the Wednesday or the Tuesday. Kevin wanted us in just to make sure he could count the numbers and make sure that he hasn't been holy hell the night before. And we used to always go upstairs. We used to get changed, put our kit on, go upstairs for a cup of coffee, cup of tea before training started. And we used to always tell stories. Fucking hell, what happened to you? What happened to you? I've seen you with this bird, I've seen you with that bird. It was all single lads, though, of course. I can tell these stories now because I said I'm divorced from left them. So we're telling these stories, and there was one. I'm stood at the bar, and I'm waiting to get a drink. So Julie's bar is about this high, so I'm stood there. And there was this really attractive girl comes up, and she said, Steve, can I buy you a drink? And I went, no, you're all right. I said, I'll get you one. So next to me was Peasy, then there was Bez, and then the big daft Belgian. So the big daft Belgian, he leans over and he catches the eye of the lass and goes, well, hello. She went, oh, do you like chocolate? What? Do you like chocolate? Do I like chocolate? Yeah. Well, suck my cock, because it's a Mars bar. So Bez has gone, Philippe, what the fuck are you doing? I know you're trying to do Sid the Sexist, but Sid the Sexist, do you like flowers? Get your tulips around this. Do you like jewellery? Suck me cock, it's a gem. What you said is nonsense. So the night's gone on. We're in the next morning, lads are telling tales about what they're getting up to, what time they left, and all this kind of thing. We're all there. Kevin's there with Terry Mack. Bez goes, boys, what about the fucking big dark Belgian? So Bez is telling the story, and all the boys is pissing themselves laughing. And Philippe is just sitting there, he's got his feet on another chair like that, and he's laughing. And Kevin goes, Philippe, you know, why are you laughing? You know, do you not understand that the boys are taking the piss out of you? Like, do you not get the humour? Why are you laughing? He went, I laugh because at the end of the night she sucked my moustache.
Great stuff. Tino Aspria.
Space cadet. Absolutely nuts. I mean, obviously there's the story between him and Kevin with the speaking Spanish thing, but as I said, it's different now because you look at how teams get to and from games and the buses. I mean, even the buses have changed. The buses are kind of beautiful now. We used to go down by Moodale, and Moodale was a nice bus. You know, tables and stuff and 3 TVs in it and all that kind of thing. But every journey, most of the time, was a long journey for us. So Bez used to sometimes do games. There was card tables. Some of the lads used to play for like big money at the back. On my table, there was me, Bez, Rob Lee, and Scott Sellers. We used to just play for pennies. But of course, if we were going down to Southampton or London, it was hours and hours and hours. So there had to be some sort of entertainment. What we used to do, bearing in mind, this is how long ago, it was the video cassettes. So we didn't do a thing where if we got a new lad in, they didn't have to stand on the table and do singing and stuff like that, even though it was about then. You just had to bring something that was worthwhile on the bus to kind of keep us entertained. Now, if you remember, we used to train at Maiden Castle, the Graham Sports Centre. And again, if you can remember, there was loads of people used to come watch us train. And it used to take us ages to get off the training pitch and ages to get on the bus. We used to have to finish quite early just to get on the bus because obviously you were signing and autographs and photos and stuff like that. But it would all eventually go on. Anyway, Shearer had gotten into Tino and just sort of said, we need something from you. So we'd literally just getting on the A19 and Tino put a cassette in. It was this Colombian music. It was diabolical. So Shearer's gone down the front, Ken the bus driver, he's ejected it and went, Aspria, shit. And he's opened up those things that were on the roof and winged it down the A19 and went, fucking do better. So Tino's took this on board. So again, we're travelling away, we've trained at Maiden Castle, we've got hundreds of people around the bus. I mean, the kind of screens are blacked out, but you can kind of still see inside. Where, again, the food is just sandwiches from Marks and Spencer's and crisps. It's not like that you have now, they've got a chef and everything. So we're sitting on the bus, and we're all on. We're just waiting for the gaffer and Terry Mack. So Tino goes in his bag, and he gets out the cassette, puts the cassette in. And if you remember VHS, it used, when it comes on, it would go, and then a picture would come on. So we're kind of eating our food, boys on the tables and stuff like that. I can see a telly at the back, there's a one just kind of here, and there's one at the front. We're looking at it, and we're going, Aspria, what's this? And he went, you must watch. So we're looking at it. Anyway, yeah, the picture comes clear, and it's just all you can see is a woman's foot in high heel shoes. And eventually it pans out, and then there's this beautiful, stunning woman in this picture. Absolutely gorgeous she is. She's in this wonderful villa, looking out across the ocean. She's got all the gear on. She's got the heels on, the stockings, all the lingerie stuff, and a long silk dressing gown type thing. And we're going, fuck off. He hasn't, has he? He hasn't. He's going, you watch. So she's walking around and strutting about and all this kind of thing. Anyway, there's a knock on the door, and she opens the door, and there's this big airy arse geezer. He's got jeans on, work boots on, a tool belt, big bushy beard, white vest. And we're going, oh no, he only has. And literally, to cut a long story short, within about 2 or 3 minutes, we are watching hardcore porn. This woman is getting battered. And she's screaming the place down. Absolutely screaming the place down. Bearing in mind, the bus is static. And we've got mums and dads and kids that can hear. The dads are basically turning the wives and the kids away, but trying to break the necks to save people. This is what professional footballers watch when they're travelling. Hardcore porn. So Kevin comes on the bus, and all he can hear is this woman screaming. And he looks at the screen and he goes, "What the fucking hell is this? Can't get this off. We've got mums and dads, we've got kids here, man. Get it off, get it off." And Ken was just about to reject it, and Tino come running down the bus. "No, no, 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 you must leave this on. This is my new missus." Tino was going out with a porn star at the time from Parma, and that was his way of introducing us to his missus. He could have just brought her in the fucking Blaze Lounge and all that. That would have been better, but that was Tino.
We also had a mercurial French winger, David Ginola. Tell us about him and a few stories about David.
He stitched me up as well. He was gorgeous, wasn't he? I mean, I'm definitely for women, but he turned my head. He was absolutely stunning. He had such a physique on him as well. I mean, just looking at him naked, I'm like, it's not fair. Although he wasn't blessed in that department, which was the only good thing, really. But he could wear out. He could wear a bloody bin liner and he'd still look at dog's bollocks. But I mean, he was amazed really about the setup that we had at Maiden Castle, because yes, we had our own dressing rooms, but if we went for a shower, you could be stood next to somebody that was part of the university that's getting a shower. So he was just like, "What is this? What is this? Who is he? Does he play with football?" Like, "No, he's from the university." "Oh, this didn't happen at Paris Saint-Germain." Lee Clark was like, "You're not that fucking Paris Saint-Germain, no, mate." So he kind of got there was a culture shock for Dave, but I mean, I can remember his first game actually. We played in Middlesbrough, and a good friend of mine, Neil Cox, was playing fullback, and I actually felt sorry for him. And you feel as though you want to go across to Dave and say, "Listen, mate, you're going to have to stop," because he absolutely, tore him in two. I mean, but Dave was a model. He was a model for Cerruti, which is like a Versace and Gucci type thing. I can remember once we played down in London, and me and Bez, there was a fashion show, and David I'd stitched David up because whilst his English was good, obviously I'd stitched him up with the rude word that he'd said to the woman, and the woman wasn't too happy, and he said he would get me back. And I thought nothing of it, because months and months had gone by. And me and Bez went to this show that David was doing, and there was all these models going there, but particularly page 3 models, so me and Bez thought, fucking having some of that. But it was very clear early doors that me and Bez were just not big enough names in any way, shape or form. And so me and Bez was like, bollocks this, we're just going to go. We couldn't get a cab for love and the money. And so we just sort of said to Dave, "Can you get us a lift?" And he went, "Listen, Mr. and Mrs. Cerruti, the actual people, are leaving. Their limo is leaving. They'll be able to drop you off." And I went, "All right." And he went, "Boy," Max, my nickname was Boy. He went, "Boy, when you get out of the car, say to Mrs. Cerruti, 'Mrs. Cerruti, zus ma cœur salope.'" And I went, "Fuck off, Dave." And he went, "No." He says, "Mate, do that." He says, "She'll love you for it." And I went, "All right then." Right, so me and Bez gets in, we're sitting in this posh limo, me and Bez side by side, they sat opposite, just talking. They could speak like broken English. Obviously, we're doing the Steve McLaren thing by like trying to speak English and French, and it's nonsense. So anyway, it dropped us off, and I'd getting out the car, and Bez went, "Oh boy, what was supposed to say? What were we supposed to say?" And I went, "Oh, Mrs. Cerruti, zus ma cœur salope." And she went, "Oh," and her husband went, "Oh wow." And then he started laughing, she started laughing. I went, "I'm sorry," I said, "I've offended you." And he just started laughing. He went, "Where have you heard that?" I went, "Oh, David told me to say it." I said, "What's wrong?" He says, "Basically, you just sort of said, 'Mrs. Cerruti, suck me cock, you bitch.'" David rang me up and he was like, "Did you see it?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, I've had Mr. Cerruti on the phone." He says, "Oh, pissing himself." But Dave was a great lad, an absolute great lad. He bought into the project. So did everybody that signed. You know, there could have been big stars like Dave was, like Les was, all the other boys. You know, because we made sure that they realised how important it was for us to have a good team and for you to get the area, for you to get Newcastle and how much it means to them, their football team.
Another winger who you played with at Newcastle was Keith Gillespie. I know you got some great stories about Keith. Do you want to share a couple of those?
Yeah, Keith's nickname's Dizzy, just not because he's thick, because he's everything but he's actually very clever, Keith. But his nickname's Dizzy, from Dizzy Gillespie, the trumpet player. I don't know who came with that, but it's not exactly exciting. But Keith obviously has wrote a book and all this kind of thing. I can remember, I mean, obviously everybody talks about what happened with Alan Shearer and Keith over in Dublin, and we kept it quiet. We kept it quiet because obviously Al knocked Keith out. We kept it quiet, and literally about a week when we came back, there was me, Warren Barton, Rob Lee and Bez. We did a big do at, I think it was Dunstan Fed. There was about 500 people there or something. It was massive, but it was a Roman mic thing. And basically, I can't remember who the bloke was who was doing it, but obviously there was people in the audience with microphones that they would wander around, and it was just purely a Q&A. And the very first question was like, who wants to ask a question? Everybody was putting their hands up, but he asked this bloke, and basically we all knew what the question was. He said, Warren, he went, everybody here wants to know, can you tell us the story about what happened with Keith Gillespie and Alan Shearer? And he went, well, actually, I wasn't there. He said, but the boy was. So I thought, right, I'll tell him. So what happened was, Kenny was the manager, and Kenny wasn't flying over with us, so it was Terry Mack that was looking after us, which is a fucking pointless exercise for Terry Mack. It was basically a fox looking after hens. We just got pissed on the plane. we got off the plane, went to the hotel, got changed, and we were all out. Terry went, listen boys, the gaffer's getting in about 7 o'clock, everybody be back for 7 o'clock, we'll have something to eat, we'll have a meeting, and then you can come back out. So we've all gone, bang, out. And we were a group where we wouldn't go off in little bits, although later on we did. Because if you can remember, I think Stuart Pearce got done for throwing one of those big cones and hit a woman's car.
And he signed a cheque, didn't he?
He did, he told her, okay, now this is how thick Pearce is. He was mortified. So he'd got with the woman and he went, listen, I need to keep this quiet. Please, can we keep it quiet? And she went, well, yeah, give us 200 quid. So he basically signed a cheque and gave it to her. So she had a cheque as evidence that this is what happened. An idiot. So, as I said, we were a group. We used to always go out. We always went out together. And whilst we all liked to drink, we used to like playing games and forfeit and stuff like that. So we'd all sit round in a big table. I know it's childish, but there was a drink in the middle, which it's got everything in it. Just awful things that you didn't want to drink. And we used to play like buzz, which is multiples of 7 and stuff like that, or names of. And names of could be something which has got to be common knowledge. I mean, I'm not in on race jockeys and all that kind of thing, so that was off the table. So it would have to be kind of, you know, alphabetical order football teams or airlines or flavoured crisps and stuff like that. And it goes round the group. Obviously you can't see what's being said. And if you get it wrong, you've got a drink. Then you can pick the next topic. Keith was pissed. And he was already chewing because he went to go to the toilet and he had his hands in his pockets. And the lad in front of him, some random lad, had opened the door and let go. And Keith had his hands in his pockets and the door hit him. So he wasn't happy. And Keith was one of these, he would want to fight anybody, but Keith couldn't fight. He's rubbish, he's soft. So he's seen his arse a little bit. Anyway, believe it or not, Shearer is a massive, massive wind-up merchant. He's murder. If there was anything going on, Shearer will be either in the middle of it or part of it. So we're playing these games. And as I said, Keith is very clever, but because he's had a drink, when you play these games, it is imperative you do not get caught on the bounce, like 2 or 3 times on the bounce because you're knackered, so you might as well gan on. And Keith would always stop at Keith. It wouldn't get round, and she was hammering him. And as I said, Keith was annoyed. Anyway, it comes around, stops at Keith. Comes around, stops at Keith. And Al's gone, fucking hell, man. You thick Irish bastard and all this kind of stuff. And Keith has gone, he pushed his chair up and he went, listen, you baldy bastard. He said, if you call me one more time, me and you's going outside. Keith and Al's gone, fucking sit down, you idiot. Anyway, I've gone, right, fucking I'm chairman, I'll fucking start again. I went, Keith, I said, listen, I'm going to do some, I'll do your side first. So I've gone, to my left, different flavoured crisps, salt and vinegar. And I've looked at him and he went, salt and vinegar. And I've gone, fucking hell, Keith. And I've got a champagne cork in my hands and I've gone, fucking hell, Keith. And I've bounced it off the table. And it could have gone anywhere. And it's bounced and hit Keith in the eye. Shearer, as quick as a flash, went, fucking look here, you're the only fucking Irishman who doesn't know where cork is. Which was brilliant for Al. Keith's going, that's it, fucking that's it. And he went, me and you outside. Now, sat next to me was Des Hamilton. Remember Des Hamilton? Have you ever watched the film Jumanji, the very first one with Robin Williams? When all the animals run, there's the big fat rhino at the back. That's Des. So Des comes to me. Boys, what are you doing? Are you going up there? I went, fuck off. I said, I'm at the embryo stage of a fucking drinking session here. I said, I'm flying. I said, if I miss a beat, I'm knackered. I said, you crack on, mate. You crack on. So they've gone up. Des has gone after them. And literally within about 30 seconds, I hear the rhino coming down the corridor. He's hit him. He's only fucking hit him. I've gone, oh, fuck. Yeah, I've gone up the corridor. And at the entrance, the door entrance, she was stood there. Keith's on the floor, flat out, claret all over the place. I've gone, what have you fucking done? He went, I've hit him. I said, I can see that. I said, you fucking knocked him out. He went, but he went to punches. I went, fucking, you get yourself away. I said, I'll sort it out. So I sorted it out. Ambulance came, me and Keith went. As I said, he's done a book and all this. And he mentions this. But what he doesn't mention at this particular time, he's actually shit and pissed himself. Keith sat out the book. So, I've told the story. Now, Rob Lee was at this do with me on this big do with the questions were about. And Rob Lee is murder. Now, I love Rob, but if you ever catch Rob in full, please take a picture and send it to me on social media. Because normally, from here to here with Rob Lee is up Alan Shearer's arse. It's fucking fine. So I'm driving home, and it comes up, here's Shearer. I was like, fucking hell. So I know for a fact Rob Lee's been on the phone. Alan, Steve Howey, been done, Alan. I wouldn't do it, Alan, I love you, Alan. Fucking hell. I went, hello? He went, you mackin' bastard. I said, what's about you, man? He went, you told the story. I went, I did tell the story. I went, fucking calm down. I said, they loved it. He went, what do you mean they loved it? I said, I told the story. I said, there's 600 people there. I says, Keith went for you. I says, you duck, boom. I says, you were like Mike Tyson. I said, and 600 people stood up and were going, Shearer. He went, what? I went, either way. He went, well, you keep on telling that fucking story.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the first half. Put your hands together for Steve Howey. We're going to do the raffle now. We're going to have another signed programme signed by Steve and Rob Lee. We've also got a photograph of that goal celebration at Wembley. The last time we were there in '99, signed by Rob Lee and Steve Howey. And we've got a couple of other prizes as well. Becca's going to come round. The raffle tickets are £2 a strip, 3 for a £5. Okay, we'll be back after this. You've got time to go to the bar, go to the toilet, or go for a smoke. We'll be back on in about 15 minutes.